Today we're going to be looking at a pair of ultra-compact travel strollers, the tried and tested favorite, the Babyzen Yoyo, and a relatively new ultra-compact, the Ergobaby Metro. One of the things that makes comparing these two interesting is that both models are sort of rogue shots at the stroller market. Babyzen launched the Yoyo way back in 2012 as the first ultra-compact travel stroller, and while it was an instant success, which has thus far managed to maintain a dominant position over competing models, Babyzen have, in all this time, played their cards close to their chest, keeping their line limited to a single model. Not counting a very limited release of a slightly larger stroller, the 180, which is not available in Europe, the Metro is also an only child, born of a company who has long held a strong position in other areas of the childcare market, predominantly with their line of baby carriers. These strollers have virtually identical weights and dimensions, but I'll run through the stats anyway. The Ergobaby Metro folds down to 52 by 44 by 23 centimeters versus 52 by 44 by 18 on the Yoyo, basically meaning that the height and width are the same, but that the Metro is slightly thicker along its shortest side. We'll fold both of these strollers down at the end of the video so you can see the difference. The Yoyo and the Metro weigh virtually the same as well, 6.2 versus 6.3 kilos, the difference being about the weight of a small apple. The weight capacity of their seats is also identical, 18 kilos, but they do differ when it comes to the capacities of their shopping baskets, with the Zen's 8 kilos being nearly double that of the Metro. Not that 8 kilos weight capacity is really needed given the actual space afforded by either of these baskets. Okay, let's move on and compare a few aspects of comfort and real-world functionality on both of these models. When it comes to your child's comfort in the seat, both strollers have similarly sized seats with regards to overall width, depth of the baseboard, and length of the seat back. But the Metro has the very nice added advantages of an adjustable footrest, a full recline, and a somewhat longer canopy. When it comes to the textiles, both are equally easy to remove for a wash, but in terms of quality, which is somewhat up to personal preference, the materials on the Yoyo are a bit more durable, especially when it comes to the Metro's Lycra-like canopy and mesh back wall. As far as your own comfort is concerned while using these strollers, the one-hand fold on the Metro makes it arguably easier, but the Yoyo is also quite easy to fold, and the engineering involved is a good deal simpler, which has certain mechanical advantages that we'll deal with in a bit. When folded, the shoulder strap makes carrying your stroller around easier on the Yoyo, as the Metro only has a handle. But this is really not that big of a deal, since it wouldn't be that hard or expensive to rig a strap yourself. The shopping basket on the Yoyo is also a bit better, being larger, stronger, and most importantly, easier to access, as the Metro's basket is a bit blocked off in the back, and that wonderful adjustable seat rest has a tendency to get in the way in the front. Driving-wise, the Yoyo's handle is higher by a good margin, but then the Yoyo's handle is higher than most ultra-compacts. As far as the wheels are concerned, both of these strollers sport 6-inch suspended front wheels, but the Metro has 8-inch back wheels, giving it a slight edge when trying to get up curbs. I additionally find that the choice of a wider rear footprint on the Metro versus the wider frontal footprint on the Yoyo gives the Metro a slight edge in terms of how stable it feels to drive these two strollers. Not to say that the Yoyo feels unstable or anything, but it does make a little bit of a difference when you get out of the airport onto slightly rougher roads. Okay, we're going to have a look at the mechanics of both these models now, starting off with the folding setups, and we'll start with the Ergobaby Metro. So the way folding works on the Ergobaby Metro is it has like a button and a safety slider at the top, and when you first click that together, it's going to just activate the top folding mechanism, which locks into place when it's upright, of course. And as this gets down to a certain point in its fold, it is going to then activate a second trigger inside here, which will unlock the three-disked central folding mechanism. I'll put it all down. Yeah. So in general, this is a relatively complex internal design for a stroller. However, Ergobaby has done this in a relatively sturdy fashion with regards to using metal and the way the various parts inside are set up. And I have not seen any sort of problems with it yet. Of course, it is a relatively new stroller, so that doesn't mean there won't be any in the future. But it is designed internally a little bit more like a baby jogger, a little bit less like a boogaboo in relation to the sturdiness of the components. Couple things though. Number one, it does mean that there are 2 points here with very tightly fitting discs, and this does create a certain amount of creaking. It's not a huge problem, but it does mean that if you are going to get a Metro, that you might want to get a can of silicone spray and spray down into those cracks in order to prevent that sort of noise sort of an issue. Secondly, again, even though I don't foresee any specific problems with this folding system, it is a very internally complex system, so they might occur in the future. In particular, I would guess parts getting out of alignment. One of the things about this is that it is mostly put together with screws at the folding mechanism points. So if you do have alignment issues in the future, you can technically open it up and realign the various points of the mechanism. That is a little bit advanced for some people, but it is at least doable. One thing that's good about it in general is the double locking points. It's going to lead to less looseness over time than strollers that have a single locking point and then several hinged points along the chassis itself. Okay, we're going to look at the Babyzen Yoyo then, which has a much simpler folding system, at least in regards to the mechanics. It has a basic adjustable handle, which is just these buttons that press apart a pair of interlocking teeth wheels inside here at the handle, so a very, very simple system. And then the central fold is actually quite simple as well. It's just a handle in the middle that you pull, and it releases essentially the whole chassis at all of these non-locking moving points along the chassis itself. Yeah. So that handle underneath is very simple and very sturdy in the way it's designed. If you'd like to see that a little bit closer up, we just recently did a Babyzen Yoyo versus the Silver Cross Jet, in which we actually show how that mechanism works. But it is very, very simple, just a lock and release sort of a mechanism. Advantage then with this is that very little chance of any sort of internal mechanisms breaking on the Babyzen Yoyo. There are, however, several points at which the chassis just the elements of the chassis just swivel against each other, and it's all locked at that central point. And these do have a tendency to loosen over time a bit. It's not really a big deal, but if you use, especially if you use excess weight, go over terrain that's a bit rougher than you should, then you can wind up loosening up a lot of those joints. Most of them are put together with screws. In fact, all of them are essentially put together with screws. So you can tighten them, and they are also relatively easy to replace parts if they wear down so much that tightening won't work. So I would say you would, in between both of these two strollers, you're going to have a higher potential for internal mechanical problems on the Metro, although it is very sturdily engineered, while you have a higher chance of developing looseness issues with the Babyzen Yoyo over time that aren't actually brakes. Again, even though it is also very well engineered. Okay, we're going to have a little bit of a closer look at the lower rear frame then of both of these two strollers. On the Ergobaby Metro, I will point out it has the 8-inch back wheels, which is of course nicer. Larger wheels always means a little bit more drivability. Neither of these strollers have any sort of rear frame suspension, which is actually very uncommon on ultra-compact strollers. So it's not really a problem when you're going through airports and smooth city streets. You don't really need to have any sort of rear frame suspension. With regards to the brake systems, they're both very simple sort of brake systems. They do not involve any sort of wires. They're entirely mechanical and like rotation based, involving the pins as they, in this case, shoot out and protrude into the teeth on the backside of the wheel, and in this case fall down on the teeth on the inside back of the wheel. The teeth are a little bit thinner on the Metro, so there is a potential more of a potential for braking over time, but it's not really that bad. One last note I'd like to make about the rear frames is that over time, very often the Babyzen Yoyo rear wheels, if people like leave their stroller outside or treat it kind of rough, can develop problems with the ball bearings, in which case you do need to replace the back wheels, and that's a bit harder than it is on the Metro because the rear wheels are actually removable on the Metro. So it's not like a big deal, and it's not something that happens very quickly with the Babyzen Yoyo, but at this point Yoyo's been around for a while, and some of these like 5-year-old, 6-year-old Babyzen Yoyos, sometimes it's necessary to replace the back wheels, and that can be a little bit of a problem if you have had some rusting and breakage with the ball bearings. We don't know whether there's going to be any this sort of problem on the Metro, but as I said, the Metro rear wheels are actually removable, so most likely it would be less of an issue. Okay, we're going to have a look at the front frames of both of these strollers then. Both wheels are actually in the 6-inch range. The Metro is actually just slightly on the low side of 6 inches, if there is such a thing. I'm talking by like millimeters. And the Yoyo is a little bit on the plus side of 6 inches by millimeters. But really they're the same size front wheel. They're both 6-inch front wheels. Both the wheels have your sort of standard suspension in the fork, although the Yoyo has it up above, which is much more common, whereas the Metro has it down at the wheel itself. Still, both provide a certain amount of suspension. Front wheels on the Metro are removable, but they've been very careful in the way they've engineered the locking of the fork against the front housing in order to prevent wobbling problems down the line, that being where the connection point with the fork and the housing has weakened such that when you go at speed, you get wobbling problems. You probably not get that on the Metro because they've been very intelligent about how they designed this. And if you watch our review for the Metro itself, you'll see me explain why that is, taking off the front fork. You also don't get wobbling problems on the Yoyo, and this is kind of proven through now, 7-8 years of experience with the Yoyo. The front wheels are not removable, just as the back wheels are not removable. And when you have non-removable front swivel wheels, very often with a lot of strollers that have that sort of a setup, what you're doing is you're using wave washers and locking washers in order to make a very tight, internally suspended or protected connection between the front fork and the housing, so you also aren't going to get wobbly problems on that. So in both cases, the wheels very sturdy in the way they are designed, both relatively simple, the same sizes. Neither has swivel locks because both are designed not to have wobbling problems. So both have good front ends. So which of these strollers is better? That's actually a pretty tough question. I still love the Yoyo, but I have to say that the adjustable footrest and larger rear wheels on the Metro make me think that the Yoyo might be ready for another update. Additionally, since there are no mechanisms on the Metro that can really be faulted as poorly engineered, it's a bit hard to justify the Yoyo's higher price tag based purely on its slightly better shopping basket and carrying strap. As these two strollers are now, I would say that they are more or less equal in terms of comfort, functionality, and engineering, thus giving a definite edge to the Metro on price. And given the number of high-quality ultra compacts coming out these days, of which the Metro is definitely top of the line, Babyzen might well want to consider stepping up their game a bit, especially since they put all their eggs in one basket. In any case, we hope you found this video interesting, and if you did, we ask that you subscribe, as it helps us to continue making videos in the future. Thank you.